Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you to this Friday evening where we are going to discuss a very insightful topic on spotting small cap businesses which can be unicorns of tomorrow. And before I introduce, everyone to the fund manager and to the topic in detail, what we are going to discuss, I'll just, give you brief background about myself because we are also an upcoming business, a small business. And Abhishek, you will also find this interesting. So, I left my tenure of job with Citibank in 2017. And before that, I have been working as a private banker and a relationship manager and investment counselor in product team, managing HNI, HNI clients for a long period of time. And when I left, I saw many people from that industry leaving and setting up their own independent shops as boutique shops, as wealth managers. And at that point of time, I also had this option to go back to my own client base, the clients that I was managing, and kind of on the basis of my relations with those clients, get business and then start on my own as a practice. But that was an easy path, and many of my colleagues, many of my friends took that path. But there was nothing exciting in that path, and that is where I thought that let me use my knowledge in setting up something where instead of I just going on to my clients and trying to play on my relations with them, but try to build something which gives me more scalable footing to attract clients beyond those relations which I have built over my career. And we thought around it. We did a lot of in-depth understanding about the industry because I was coming from the industry. I knew which are the areas where there is a lot of scope, and that is where we very successfully set up PMSAIF World. And today it's been more than 2.5 years. I can tell you, I would not measure my success with kind of assets that I've acquired, because obviously we have acquired good amount of assets. But I will try and tell you how we measure our success. We measure our success in a very simple fact that today I can tell you there are many Citibank clients which I was not managing because I was confined to a particular territory. I was confined to Delhi as a territory, but there are many Citibank investors, Citibank clients based out of Pune, based out of Bangalore, based out of Chennai, based out of Mumbai, who are coming and registering on our platform and who are booking calls with us, who are booking meetings with us, and we are gradually converting them. So this is the scalability of the business that we have discovered based on the quality work that we did, and we are learning and growing. Second arena, how I would measure our success is that today I see many big wealth management companies, many big manufacturers like funds running ads on our name, Google ads using keywords as PMSAIF World, because they know people are searching for PMSAIF World, right? So we are kind of far away from the vision that we have set for ourselves. And because Abhishek Agarwal has been kind of finding gems in the small cap space, right? I thought of sharing and narrating this little story about ourselves. And with this context, I would now come to the topic, which is spotting small businesses which have a potential to become unicorns of tomorrow. Right, so we all of us have a lot of love for creating wealth for our clients, for ourselves, and that is why when we see the small cap rally going on, and obviously the small cap rally on one side, gives us some kind of a fright that there could be wrong timing because valuations are up and there is some kind of confusion, but at the same time greed takes over and we enter and But obviously, if we enter with wise mind, there are always opportunities to spot which have potential to become unicorns. Now, I'll just give you a brief background about Abhishek Agarwal, and then I will also talk about what I like about him and why today we are doing this conversation, where I see a lot of potential as an outcome. Abhishek Agarwal comes with 14 years of experience. He started his career as a research analyst. Otherwise, he's MSc in finance from Lancaster University, United Kingdom. But after having worked as a research analyst, he realized that investing in the space of small caps or unlisted businesses is the area where one can make maximum wealth. life is short, right? Days are limited, and especially after the second wave of COVID, all of us have realized that there is no fun, in just worrying about, our death day or our D-day, and one should take risk, right? So, and all of us know that today there are many more investors who are accepting equities in asset class. India's average age is quite attractive, which we call as attractive demographics. So there is a lot of receptivity, which is increasing towards equities in asset class and small cap, within equities in asset class. And that is why, and I can tell you, most fund managers that I interact with convince me on this fact that we are here to see a turnaround of India's economy, which we know for last 10 years was kind of hopeful but did not happen. And now obviously when this turnaround will happen, the maximum advantage will be taken by some of these small businesses. So, now I will, stop from here and over to you, Abhishek. So we would like to understand from you, what are your personal experiences in terms of spotting these small businesses which have a potential to become unicorn of tomorrow? And also, I have yet not discussed about one very unique factor about the fund, which Abhishek has launched, which is a very unique aspect, which I will discuss subsequently, after Abhishek has discussed about the initial part. Over to you, Abhishek.
Thank you so much, Kamal, for the introduction. And it's amazing that your own story is so fascinating. And of course, that's the story of India, right? The entrepreneurs which are just starting their journey, and it's all happening in last 10 years. So I've been fortunate enough to actually consider and probably able to launch my own fund. And when we relate, I mean, most of the time the audience would be watching this would be fairly knowing that there are startups and these are the unicorns, etc., etc. But not everybody would be exposed to understand that what typically from an institution, probably from a fund manager point of view, what are the things they are actually looking at it, and before deciding to actually invest, and what kind of ideas are those, and whether those ideas are bankable or not bankable, or it is a valuation first. So to answer all those, we have prepared some material here, which I would like to showcase to the audience here, so that they can actually get some kind of learning from this discussion and take it forward, that how we actually came as a fund into picture, and what typically we are looking at it from the Indian growth story. So yes, I mean, really excited to look forward for this session.
Right, Abhishek. So should I play the presentation that you have
Yeah.
made? Sure.
Yeah, we can just go about it, and you can of course interrupt me wherever you would like me to cover specifically any particular idea.
Sure. So, before Abhishek, I just hand it over to you. I would just like to reveal, the uniqueness about this particular fund that Rockstud Capital has initiated is that it is a basket of 50% as listed space of small businesses and 50% as an unlisted space of startups. So there is no other fund in the industry that I have seen, in this category, which is a combination of both these baskets. So at times, investors who invest in the listed space of small caps through other structures, which could be mutual funds or portfolio management services, they find that, if they are taking so much risk of investing in small caps, why should one not take advantage of investing into startups? Because one startup in your portfolio can actually make a lot of difference to your overall returns. At the same time, there are a lot of investors who invest into VC funds, and they feel that there is a risk of investing into VC fund because they cannot liquidate their investments, and putting everything to all these startups kind of gives them at times sleepless nights. So they make money, but they make money in a very hard way. But at the same time, this particular fund provides both these portfolios as an equal weightage. I'm sure it looks attractive, but every attractive thing has a sour side to it in terms of could be taxation. I do not know. So all these things we will understand from you, Abhishek, because you are the one who have initiated this very unique style of investing. And now over to you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for that. Again, I would just like to start mainly first of all to tell about us. I guess that's more important, because Rockstud as a brand would be, first time which is going to come in the, picture. So, the idea of launching this fund was mainly to attract domestic capital, and we wanted to have the HNIs, the NRIs of the world to actually look at this product. And it's only because that we understand what typically an Indian investor would be mindful of the risk in terms of the liquidity or in terms of the overall tenure of the cycle of the investment. So we came in 2018. December 2018 is where we started. We are a AIF Cat 2 fund, so SEBI regulated. And again, this presentation do contain some information which are of course private and confidential. So this is a short disclaimer that none of the advice is given in terms of doing any investment from us. This is purely what fund has already done. It's a showcase of those ideas, and nowhere we are recommending anybody to buy any stock which is mentioned here. When we started the fund, the idea was that when you launch a new brand and when there's already competition, what typically somebody would be looking at you, right? I mean, like how you have mentioned about your own journey, Kamal, that you come from a background, and when you launch your own product, so what is the the base? One is of course yourself, as the founder would come with a certain pedigree, but at the same time there are a lot of things which goes in to build a trust. To us, when we have a fund, we never wanted that somebody is only looking at us from a one person point of view. So here we have fund service partners where we are working with the best of the best people in the industry, where it shows that what kind of thought process we had when we launched our fund. Therefore, in terms of our compliance or in terms of our performance, both are well audited when we are looking at these external partners with us. So we got Khaitan & Company, which has been the solicitor and advocate for putting all the documents in place and filing with SEBI. We got an auditor, which is BDO India, which is the top 5 auditor in the country, and BDO International being again the top 5 in the world. We got Milestone as a trustee. We got Vistra, where we have done our fund accounting outsourced. We got a custodian with Axis Bank, and we got CRISIL, which of course, with the direction by SEBI to benchmark the AIFs against, proper benchmarking. So we got CRISIL on our side. So these are the people we engage, and idea is to build trust to the investors who are looking at this brand, and we can only ensure that we are fully compliant and regulated here. Coming quickly on my background, I guess, you have kindly have introduced, me, but to just take one bit, more. So, my background comes, of course, done my education, but when I came to, the ecosystem of the startups, it only rang my bell when it was around 2011-12, where the markets in the equities were not doing that great. It was still recovering from the 2008-9 debacle, and that was the time I started my career. Almost 4 years spending in the markets were very, very directionless, right? And again, there was a lot of enthusiasm which was building in from the youth, and therefore the new ideas were discussed even at those times. But the start only happened when the Flipkart story actually started in 2012. So I was lucky enough to track that story since my interest was already there. And in 2014, I took that step in terms of investing into the startup world. I'm happy to say that from that day till date, so far I have done, along with my fund, 30 investments till date into startups, which means that, looking at almost 6 to 7 years of period of actually looking at one cycle, that how startups have behaved. Now, I would be fortunate enough to also share something which typically people would shy away, is that, how those companies have done it. Because most of the people only talk about the good stories. Here, for me, my experience, I would say, was great, both in terms of learning and in terms of looking at so many unique ideas, before deciding to invest. So that's where I come from, and of course having the background of this equity research analyst, I was there from 2008. I thought, let me come out with something new in the market, right? Let me use this knowledge and launch a product which really helps the investor to really limit the downside of the capital risk and really participate in the Indian growth story. And therefore, we are one of the most unique funds in the country where we have a hybrid structure, where we are investing both in startups as well as into listed equities. So with this strategy, this fund is, been there for last 2.5 years. And as far as the startup is concerned, so again, this discussion I wanted to predominantly keep for the audience to know that what is happening in the startup ecosystem. So I would take it another leaf. Now, this is my own personal portfolio, right? This portfolio consists of 24 startups, right? What we are able to see is on the left hand side and the right hand side. The left hand side are the success stories and the right hand side is the failure stories, right? So out of 24 startups, almost 50% of the startups were already considered as dead pool, right? That's the place where I've lost money. But the interesting part is that when it comes to winning, if you just look at from the first two companies where I have already got the exit, I managed to make my returns at a return of 16x from one company and 5x from the another company, and then the partial exit from one of the companies. In totality, as on today, I have recovered my entire capital which I had invested in these 24 startups altogether. Now, if you look at from the left hand side, right from Coolbug till GrowFitter, all these companies are still in existence and managed to attract capital in the next round from the other institutional VCs. So by looking at this, almost 50% success rate is something I am able to see in my personal portfolio versus the world average, which is almost 15 to 20%, right? So this gives me a lot of comfort in terms of actually attracting and telling clients that, this is something which we should be looking at it as an asset class. And myself looking at from this 24 startups across all possible domain, and looking at that from the seed stage till to the Series B, it really gave me a lot of color and a lot of knowledge in terms of using it, in the fund. So this is where, my personal portfolio stood. Again, quickly to make you understand where the life cycle is, right? We are always hearing the unicorn stories. This is the today's unicorn. This year we saw so many unicorns. But the most important piece is that how much time does it take for a company to become a unicorn, right? So far in the country, in India, the average has been between 7 to 9 years, right? So a company which starts from a seed stage and continues till Series D and attracting capital till this stage, if you calculate the entire time frame, it will result between 7 to 8 years. And that's where the life cycle is explained in the graphical form, right? The maximum risk is when you are just starting, right? With very few lakhs or few crores of rupees from your friends and family, you actually take a punt and go and explore your idea. Now that can have a binary result, and therefore the risk and return reward is extremely high in this case. Since my experience has been most of the time at this area, and also when I participated in personal capacity in other stages, I realized that the best way to minimize the risk is to go one step ahead. And therefore, Rockstud participates at a pre-Series A, that means post-validation of those ideas. And if that has already achieved certain scale and the market product fit is already achieved, that's the place where we come in and invest. Now, if somebody is looking from a pre-A to the Series B, which is something our focus is, where we would like to exit. So we are not looking at unicorn story in our portfolio. For us, we intend to make returns. And if we have to look at from the return point of view, in a 4 to 5 year span, if a company is able to go for a Series B, the possible returns can be between 5 to 20x in the same bracket, right? That means one company, if you invest 10 lakhs today, can give you possible return of 50 lakhs to 2 CR from one company. So therefore, it is a very, very important to have a portfolio approach rather than just looking at one or two outliers. Here, I have already done 24 investments. That's the reason it can be shown in terms of how the performance has been. And that's what we also believe in the fund philosophy. But this is where the risk and return is. Today, when we are talking about those 50 unicorns in the world, this is where they are right now. That is at a later stage and almost going for an IPO kind of thing. So quick story, right? Where is India? I mean, India की growth story क्या है, sir? So India की growth story is in front of you, right? 50 unicorns we have already achieved in a matter of 10 years. Indeed, if we have to look at this year itself, we have already managed to have 14 unicorns in the matter of 6 months. So it itself shows that where we are coming from. The story will started in 2012-13, and if you look at Flipkart and the InMobis of the world, they started their journey in 11-12, and after that, a lot of other dreamers or the entrepreneurs followed their story, and all those new ideas came in 2014-15, And today, if we have to take a 7-year, 8-year cycle, these are the results today we are seeing. And I guess the numbers are just going to grow up. In a quick contention, where today India is standing at 50, I mean, it is no shock to know that China is already above, 200 companies, and US would be sitting more than 300. So therefore, our story is still, yet to explode in the coming decade from this 2020 till 2030. And I guess this will be the time of the country, time for the entrepreneurs, and straight away they should be jumping the gun and start a business if they believe that they have the potential. And these are the results. I mean, this is all, the places. If somebody has invested in these companies, I mean, they would have made amazing numbers, amazing returns. In the previous slide, if somebody was at our stage, at a pre-A, and if they would have able to see a unicorn, the returns are between 65 times to 200 times, right? And these are the returns which have been made by investors who have taken a bet into companies like this. And most important, also seen exits. A lot of the time, there's a flake in the market saying that it's all in the paper. Where do we get the exits? But that's not the reality. If we take some names here, I mean, these companies have given exits, in the recent times and even in the past years. So, my philosophy is, Kamal, that, if you make a product which can, really get you that value which you're looking for, then somebody you will always find to pay the price for. So this is taken, right? It's only the journey which is going to be long and painful. But fact remains that it does, give you that value which anybody is looking at when you're looking at either investing or running your own company. Quickly, I mean, all this Gyan is always available on the net. I mean, there is nothing I am going to speak unique. So let me talk unique. What is unique in this discussion is going to be talking about our portfolio company, where we have taken the bet from our fund, and what exactly have we seen in those companies, right? So one of the companies we have taken a bet is a company called Lilac Insights, which is basically a specialized leading diagnostic company focused on reproductive genetics and cancer genetic diagnosis. The amazing part which has happened, unfortunately in last couple of years due to COVID, that suddenly in our country, the testing or the diagnostic center suddenly ramped up. Overnight now you have built a capability of testing 2 to 3 lakh probably, in a day. Now that's amazing, right? I mean, suddenly from nowhere, where people used to not rely on any detection of any of this sort, suddenly now concerned about their health and really want to get tested if they are finding any abnormalities. Now today, this is mainly on the COVID. But now if you have to look at from the data point of view where this company is, generally in the world, people are very, very careful about their health. And indeed, they really go for this advanced testing in order to know that whether somebody is in that position in order to get some kind of disease in future, right? So this is where the company comes. I mean, the genetic is the most important aspect to actually determine that what kind of risk somebody can face in their life. And therefore, this company is one of the leading companies into this space. Again, they have started in 2011. So today it's already covered 10 years of their own journey with a super experienced founder like Rakesh Sharma, Dastidar, Gulshan Bakhtiani. I mean, these are already a veteran in their own space because they come from a background already from the relevant experience, right? And then they started this company. At this point of time, if you look at from the funding point of view where we came in, I mean, this company was available to us at a 3 times to the sales on FY20 basis. So, on a 40 crore kind of revenue which this company was doing, it was available to us at 120 crore valuation. Now, the interesting part is if you have to look at from the listed equity point of view, you look at Metropolis, you look at Thyrocare, you look at Dr. Lal PathLab, you might take some examples even from the private space which are unlisted. And today, the price to sale multiples are anywhere from 7 times to 15 times of the sale. And these are listed companies, right? So the fact remains that, sometimes in the private space also, there are valuation gaps where you can find. Now, what is the opportunity, right? What is the opportunity size? So today, if we have to look at from that angle, almost in India, right now, this particular genetic testing which we are doing is almost a market size of 400 to 500 crores, right? Whereas if you go to, US and China, I mean, the numbers won't make sense to you, right? Because it is in the upwards of 40,000 crores sort of number per annum. So therefore, we are still, behind in terms of our own, focus on healthcare. And I guess, this recent, COVID actually exposed a lot of gaps in the healthcare system, which I guess would be now fixed. And in this case, this company would be beneficial because they are right now the number one in the space of genetic disorder detectment. And we are very, very bullish considering a 5 to 10 year, time frame that this company can really, capture anything if the market is moving towards that direction. So, this is one of the reasons why we chose to, put our money behind Lilac. Again, funding is another aspect which is very important. So this company really got and attracted, capital from a very well-known family offices and VC funds, and almost attracted a capital of close to 46 crores in a round which we participated. So from Rockstead point of view, we are not interested to, look at very early stage companies. Idea is that we want to look at solid company with solid founders and a proper market fit. If one you achieve those and there is a growth opportunity, then certainly it will give you that value which you're looking for, right? To our estimates, I mean, we believe that today this company is doing anywhere between 40 to 45 crores of numbers. After this round and going forward, probably in the next 5 years, we believe that this company has the potential to at least give me 250 to 300 crores kind of revenue in a shorter period of time. And if you look at for the market multiple of the minimum number of 7 times, and you take it up on this, number, you are looking at least 1,000 crore company. So the point is that, India has just started and a lot of unique ideas are coming into the picture. Unique in the sense that those expertise which we already had because of our tech background now being used because the capital is available into the current, tenure, which was not available to the previous generation. Another company which we would like to, showcase, which is again our portfolio company, is a Big Hearth Agro. This is mainly into the agri input space. We all know the numbers, right? India got the second largest land bank in the world. Still, we are just contributing 15% to our GDP, right? And that's unbelievably low. Again, it is one of the largest place of employment. So then what are we missing here? Why agriculture has not picked up to the way how everybody wants? And still in last year, we have seen, our own, PM Modi has coming in and again giving so many reforms to this sector because we've got the potential which can really transform us to be one of the most biggest exporters of agri products because we got everything. The problem is because there is so much of data discrepancy and so much of lack of education that companies are just at the one end who are just providing the inputs like fertilizers, crops, etc. And on the other hand, they're just farmers. And in middle there was a huge vacuum, right? Now the new age companies like Big Hearth is coming into the picture and filling that vacuum, right? The founders Satish and Sachin, they are the people, they are the ones who have founded this company. And before starting this company, which started in 2015, they were already, serving themselves into the space as farmers. And before that, they were a part of Honeywell for 16 years, where they've actually, learned a lot of technology understanding before implementing in Big Hearth. So Big Hearth basically is an e-commerce portal, mainly for farmers, where they can actually go and, buy things, whatever they need for their farming needs. Right? No middlemen, straight you go online and you will be delivered at your doorstep. Today, this company is already catering pan-India, as we speak. And that really solves a lot of problem for the farmers because then they can actually get what they want on a timely basis. Right on the current structure, the distribution structure in a physical form is very complex and very wide. Somebody might need something else, but they might not be getting it on the time. And therefore, agriculture or farming is very time sensitive activity. So you can't expect a 15-20 days delay. If that cycle goes off, the entire crop goes waste. So this is where they are right now. Of course, they also cultivate, farmers learning about their crop, about their land. Sometimes you would see that certain farmers are not getting the right produce or right productivity. And again, they are solving those by satellite imaging, technology, by knowing that which crop is suitable for what kind of soil and the place and of course the weather. So these are the new things which are coming in into the market, and this company of course can really benefit from the entire sheer size and the unorganized market. When we invested in FY20 during COVID times, previous year the company already had 22 crores of revenue, and this financial year they have already touched 18. Right now the kind of run rate they're going, I mean, it easily can be seen that probably a GMV of 5 crore per month is possible. That means we are looking almost like a 60 crore number within a matter of another year to two. Right? That is what it offers. The startup offers you scale. The startup offers you accelerated growth. And if they are able to capitalize the market, then that's where you are as an investor able to make money. Right? So this is another reason why we have taken a bet on a company like BigHeart. And again, while we invested, this was already a 5-year company, so we are not looking at a very, very early stage, as mentioned earlier. So what are we looking at, right? As a fund, of course, we have our own criteria in place. So we ensure that the company is coming at a pre-A. Typically, they should be at least raising $1 million round, and our ticket size is between 1 to 2 CR, where we are investing as a co-investor. So we always invest along with other VC funds, right? What kind of typically value, these startups will be looking at? I mean, what's the point? You just give them money and they're going to go for growth? No, there are a lot of nurturing which is required. And therefore, when you come as an investor, you come with your own experience, right? Which can be handy to shape these companies at the early stage, ready for scale. So we, of course, take as a board observer seat in the company. We, of course, look at their financial plans going forward. We do attend their board meetings on a monthly or quarterly basis. We do give our inputs in terms of key strategic decision, what is happening with them, and what should be doing, actually focusing on where to cut their costs or where to actually put their money behind in terms of scaling, right? So these are the few things which we do, which helps the company to have a better corporate governance standards and able to scale, faster. Kamal, I am happy to, of course, take any questions in between if you have anything particular. Otherwise, I will be going with this thing. So this slide would be now talking about the listed part, as I have already covered that we are a hybrid strategy fund and we do invest in both the sides. So till here, I covered the listed equity element, unlisted equity element. So, I would like Kamal to, ask me any questions if you want to have any clarifications on startup ecosystem before we move towards the listed equity dynamics. Kamal, I guess you are on mute.
So I'm saying this is, really fine information that you have shared. It's rare for a fund manager to be so confident that they, come out and talk about the companies, especially in the startup space. I can tell you, there are, many large cap portfolio management services who openly talk about, publicly names of the companies where they're invested, but mid and small cap fund managers shy away. But you have spoken about, your startups where you're invested in by taking their names. That really talks a lot about, your own confidence in that. One particular question that, has always been in my mind, that when you say that you have a 24 companies portfolio, right? How is there any, mathematics to it? Is there any logic to it, that how scientifically one can create a startup portfolio in terms of numbers, in terms of type of sectors? If in layman's language you have to explain it to me, someone who wants to start creating a, for example, unlisted startup portfolio, right, on one's own. Obviously, there is a way out of doing that by investing into your fund. But if I want to do on my own, how would one identify that? So first you will, so how will it start?
So the starting point, the point is unlike where the firm is already established and it's a click of a button. If you go from zero, that you can buy anything at your choice. The unlisted space is not like that, right? Where you need to vote and you need to become a part of some angel networks where you go for this deal sourcing. Because most important thing is, how do you get to know these startups, right? They won't be knowing you as you are nobody in the market who is not known. So then somebody has to be, be a part of the ecosystem where it can come. So angel networks in the country have now been flourishing. There are many angel networks across cities. And once become a part of that, that's where you start developing your knowledge And once you find some confidence, yes, now I understand what I am going to back for, you should start investing. Now you asked a very interesting question that what is my number? So there's no proper number which is publicly available is endorsed. But if we have to look back and learn from the Silicon Valley experience and a little bit about the Western market, then one can see that if you should have at a minimum portfolio of 10 companies, right? And larger you make, that is the safety net you create for yourself in order to fast recovery of your total capital. So one thing can be said and done that if you have a portfolio company of 20 companies, right, one can really assure you won't be losing your capital. So assuming that whatever capital you have put in those 20 companies, eventually a one or two big outliers will recover the entire capital invested, and maybe another couple of them will give you that return which a high risk investor would aspire for. And this is something very proven if you go back and look at from the Western world. So, but again, this is a very, very long journey. Today, to me, to build these 24 companies, it took me almost 4.5 to 5 years. And I would have met at least 100 entrepreneurs before taking a call and doing this 24 startups. And also, there's risk and well aware that I can lose my entire capital, right? But then the portfolio approach is the approach in order to make the real money and be safeguarded for this kind of extremism. Because nobody wants to, lose money when you're investing. You want to make money, right? But then how do you do it? That's the way the allocation comes into picture. From a fund perspective, we have gone one step ahead. Indeed, we are saying that now we are blending you with listed equity so that the overall risk of your portfolio diminishes or minimize it to the minimum and still able to see the top side, right? So this is something, how individual investor can look at in terms of the journey, but the journey will be very long. Whether you invest from a fund or individual, there are no shortcuts in wealth creation.
Right. And I'll tell you, there is one very important fact about human mind, that all of us want to build wealth, but at the same time, we are not patient. I can see many investors jumping into equity markets and trying to find out, where to invest for 10%, 15%. And many novice and new investors have come in. But ultimately, all of us understand that is not wealth creation. It requires a lot of patience. And within this interaction itself, we can see, if you spend more time on talking about some of these less known names, people will start to feel bored. Audience number is falling, right? As you are talking more about the unlisted space. So I would now want you to straight away come to the listed space of some of the known names, right? Which is also a bucket in your portfolio in the small, size, small cap businesses. And what is the philosophy there? And where do you see, India's rally, Indian capital markets rally going at the moment? And how would you pick? And what are the companies, if you can, give some few names there? Over to you, Abhishek.
Yeah, so we can go back on the presentation. I knew that here I need to again further explain the rationale behind how we are managing the listed equity piece. So of course, these are companies which are available in public domain. So I would definitely touch upon some ideas which I can, share for the public information. But before going on a specific, idea, let's understand where the India is as an overall market, right? I'm sure people would be nervous that, markets are already all-time high. Everything is discovered. Index has already doubled up in last 1.5 years. This rally has already played. The India story is over. Now there's a huge risk in the market. And, we should be taking either an exit or avoid, right? Now, I am not encouraging somebody to come and invest, but what I'm encouraging people to know is certain numbers, because facts is larger than, friction. That the truth is all in facts, right? A fact is God. So the most interesting part here to look at is that at this point of time, as we speak, right, our total market cap in terms of, Bombay Stock Exchange is concerned is already crossed close to $3 trillion, right? That's a total number. Now, exactly that's where also the India GDP is. So if we have to look at from the market cap to GDP ratio, we are almost closer to or above a little bit, hardly a few fraction above 1. So that's the answer to the fundamental. Please understand that stock market is just not going up for nothing. It is having a fundamental, because as much as your country size is, typically the stock market should be replicating the overall market cap in the same way, right? And here is the classic example. If you go back and look at from the other country point of views, which are there, you will find a similar example. So now, how this market cap would continue to increase, So it's a function of India, the India growth story, right? Today we are sitting at $3 trillion, close to $3 trillion. By 2030, right, we should be looking at anything closer to double of this number. That is almost $5.5 to $6 trillion. So if your market, right, is going to double, the entire country's market cap is going to double in that time frame. It's paramount that the markets should also be mirroring the same fundamentals as we are speaking, right? So that's the potential how we can look at from the next 8 to 10 years. As far as current juncture is concerned, the biggest driver of these returns are coming mainly by the contribution of Adani's, Ambani's, the Tatas, all this combined together. If you put all those companies together, that's where the entire market cap is, coming in, because FIs are lapping in on those counters. But still, if you go beneath the surface, right, if we just look at the total 5,000 stocks are listed in this country, and out of 500 stocks, if you look at top 100 stocks, these are where the most of the activity is happening. You look at from the mid to small cap, you would have about 750 odd companies, but then a strong drop of 4,000 odd companies, which is less than 500 crore market cap. Now, this is the story of India, right? We are a country of SMEs. We are a country of small entrepreneurs with big aspirations, right? This is where the action is. It's going to be going forward. This is where the discovery has to happen, which is not yet happened fully, right? What we see typically is a mirroring of the index performance by these big corporate giants, which have a presence mainly in the large cap space. And the unknown names are ignored most of the time. Again, from the fund mandate point of view, a lot of the mandate would again go chasing the most liquid stocks in the market. But that's not the place where the wealth can be created. The wealth are created when you find rough diamonds, in the places where nobody goes in. So this is where the India is, and I guess there's a lot of potential when it has to come from the wealth creation, where the stock moving from micro cap to moving maybe from a small to mid cap, and the kind of multiples it can make is phenomenal. Probably I would like to share some example from my own personal portfolio, which can really prove this thesis that what happens actually when you're betting a quality company. It is not that these companies are not quality. I won't say not all of them, but certainly there are many. I would like to straight away talk about a little bit, a 2 minute on our performance. This year has been kind to everybody. We are no different. So indeed, we have actually managed to generate a return of over 100% from our fund. And indeed, we managed to see at least 5 multi-baggers, which we held, in the time when we made this report. And these are the, some, returns which are mentioned. These are all absolute. We have not done any annualization. These are all absolute in place. We have not disclosed the name here, but in the next slide, probably I'll be just discussing a couple of names. Again, these are not investment advice. This is purely where the fund took the call, and we are just sharing you our knowledge, what we actually saw before investing in those companies. I would ignore, larger part, the one company which we had in our portfolio company and which really worked well for us is a company called Tata Elxsi, right? This is the company which we identified about 1.5 years ago, where the market cap of this company at that point of time was around 4,000 crores, right? And today, this company market cap stands at 24,000 crores. So this is a return which has come in just 1.5 years. So what has changed? What has been dramatic, right? No introduction is required that it is a part of the esteemed group of Tata Group, and this is again focused on IT. Now this is again a niche IT player, which mainly predominantly focusing on the automation side of most of these car manufacturers. So they got all the clients, including their own, homegrown or acquired companies like Jaguar, Land Rover, Mahindra, Renault, etc. So these are the companies who are already, their clients. The story is very simple, right? We are all looking towards making the car more efficient. The early days, all the efficiency was focused mainly on the fuel mileage. But now our aspirations have gone higher. We simply just don't want an electrical vehicle. We want our mobile to be charged wirelessly. We want a dashboard which should be throwing us, so many data points to evaluate that how are we driving. Today, the time is of autonomous drivers, which means you are looking at a driverless car. Now, if you want all those things, you require technology to be incorporated in those cars. Now, of course, we all are aware of Tesla, but then apart from Tesla, there are more, 20 other brands in the world which have been into existence for last 100 years, and who would be adopting this? And therefore, this Tata Elxsi is actually, tapping those people and providing them the design service in terms of enabling them to happen in their own car. If you look at from the market size point of view itself, just look at the overall software embedded market overall growth in 2000. See, that is calendar year 2000. The growth rate was just 2%, whereas now this is accelerated to 25% per annum. That's the market size which is growing. If you look at from the global R&D point of view, this R&D spent by these global auto manufacturers have really ramped like anything, and now is again looking at 20% kind of number. So when such kind of growth is coming, then the company should also give you that numbers in hindsight, right? So on the right hand side, you look at from the revenue growth point of view. Here we have given a 4-year growth of this company, and the growth rate of this company has been 24% per annum. Now it is not easy to get this kind of growth, when the markets are in turmoil, and especially we have to go back in the time of 2019-20, where things were not in order, but this company was still doing well, right? So this company is looking at future, and the future is what is getting captured even in the price. If you look at only from the FI holding, from the time when we bought and today when we are looking at the March 2021 numbers, you can see that there has been accumulation by the foreign institution investors, in the same period. And that's the reason why it has triggered more in the price of the stock, right? So again, we have looked at a company which had high ethical standards, excellent governance, corporate governance, super growth, which is proven in the looking back. If you look at those numbers, you look at from the industry point of view, the potential in terms of where the market can actually go in the next 5 to 10 years. You are looking from the shareholding point of view, where you have, larger, known names participating. So then what can go really wrong? The thing which can really go wrong is the time which something you can't do it, the timing piece. Today the markets have rallied, but who knows? If you look at from the last graph here, where we entered, right? We entered in the stock in the closer mark of 800 rupees. And indeed, after we bought, in the next 6 months, the stock actually tanked by 25% after we bought the stock. And from there, this stock has created a multi-bagger for us, where we have made a return of 4x out of this, right? So what is required is to hold patience. There are amazing names in the market. As I said, that when we invested just 1.5 years ago, this company was trading at 4,000 crore market cap, which means this company was not even a unicorn status, which is typically a 7,500 crore market cap is the company which is recognized as a unicorn. So just look at, the time will always be something you won't be able to know when it's going to work. But quality and growth, if it is there, you will definitely see that eventually it will be priced in when the time would come in the favor. So again, hold quality names and make money is the only mantra which typically has been learned by me in the last 13-14 years of my own career into listed equity market. And this is one fine example of looking at Tata Elxsi as a company. Another company which of course is known, probably everybody is talking about, is Amber Enterprise, which of course being the largest company right now in terms of OE manufacturers into the AC segment. So almost 9 out of 10 companies in India are already the client of Amber. And we have already seen, right? I mean, people are talking about the government-linked incentive, which these are the companies getting beneficiary towards the manufacturing push by the government. And of course, they really started, they knew that where the market was, right? When we invested, we simply saw, few factual, data points, which gave us the comfort to actually hold the stock, right? Because timing is important, right? How long can you hold the time with you? So to answer that whether I should hold the stock for 1 year, 5 or 10 years, it comes with little bit of the data which you need to evaluate. So if we have to look at from the AC penetration market from Indian point of view, when we invested that point, India just had a penetration rate of 4%, which means that 4% of the total population actually has AC in their home. And if you look at from the countries like China, Japan, US, or even for the matter of global average, looking from all the possible, the numbers would just not make any sense for that why India is so underpenetrated, right? It's just a global average of 30% versus you are at 4%. Look at the size of the opportunity which you can really capitalize. One of the biggest problem I realized in the earlier days was electricity. The electricity was not very consistently available, in the most of the parts of the country except for the metropolitan cities. Only from the time when actually, the BJP government came into the picture, and when they started focusing on easing the supply problem from Coal India and producing the electricity and focusing more on solar power, and making our country self-sufficient and making everybody power. In last 6 years, we are looking at these results. Today, we have at least, I guess, have achieved a 98% kind of electrification in the country, and there has been a lot of, that power outrage has been reduced. So that's where the things come, right? That if you have a stable electricity, then somebody can really aim and aspire to buy a consumer products. Second thing, what is again very important, was the discretionary spend. Now, typically, when a country reaches to a per capita GDP of $1,000, that's a place where 99% of that money actually goes in fulfilling the basic needs, right? As we speak today, India is closer to $2,000 mark. Now, what happens from $2,000 onwards is that whatever the incremental per capita GDP would increase, the discretion would increase multifold, right? So right now, how people are predicting is that today where we stand $2,000 per capita GDP, if this number moves to $3,000 per capita GDP, the $1,000, this increase out of this, almost you can consider 50% would be given for this consumer discretionary kind of place, right? That's what has happened in the world. So when you get excess money in your hand, that's where the purchasing power would come, and therefore this segment would be the biggest beneficiary, considering that everybody in a country like India, which is very hot in nature and humid, would definitely look for AC. And that's where we thought that it made a sense for us for our investment philosophy, and we simply took that call, right? If we look at from the growth angle, again, these graphs are shared here. One of the reasons why this stock really made us, phenomenal return of closer to 4x, again in a similar time period, is because this story started unfolding as our markets were started improvising, right? And therefore, immediately when we saw the liquidity easing out in the country and FIs lapping the quality stocks, you look at FIs where they were earlier and where are they now in terms of the stock holding of this company. But that's one of the reasons why it really, boosted the price of the company. And as an investor, we really benefited. So, sometimes investing is not that complex. It is backed by simple facts. And if you believe in facts and if you back quality names, right? Again, this company is a market leader, right? The second company is no competition to this guy. So market leader, quality management, pricing power, etc., etc. I mean, dynamic shift from just having fans in your house to actually having an air condition, moving towards premium segment, we're classic story, right? So we thought that probably this we can hold for next 5 years and we'll see the unfolding. But lucky again, that's something we can't time. The market actually, gave that returns in 1.5 years, which typically we thought we'll get in 5 years. So another story here in terms of why we chose Amber. So this is where we are, Kamal, in terms of how we actually choose our listed equity portfolio. And, so far, I guess, from a fund point of view, I've already covered that we have done, exceedingly well in both formats of the scheme, and really feel that, country like India would be benefiting humongously in the next 10 years. And investors, whichever, preference they have in terms of investing, whether going through any route, would be, the advice probably I can only give that, do invest in the growth story of our country.
Right. So, we have now maybe 10-15 minutes left. You have covered, all the factual part. Now I will put myself in investor's shoes and try to ask some of the tough questions, right? Which I'm sure all investors would have in their mind. And, I would like to maybe play devil's advocate. I would like to understand from you as a question number one, by having a combination of unlisted VC as a 50% and remaining 50% as small cap listed space, are you trying to, reduce losses of wrong selection from startup space, or you really feel that, a combination of unlisted startup space is better than a pure small cap fund?
So the way how we have done it, or the rationale behind this was, Kamal, that whether you invest in listed or unlisted, eventually you are taking a bet on equities, right? And when you take a bet on equities, it's paramount that you are, taking the risk which is above than the other traditional classes of, investment products available. So when you get into equities, you can be never certain saying that I would invest wherever I would invest, I would make money. So therefore, that's the reason why everybody follows a portfolio approach. Now, when we thought that, why we need to combine this, it simply came from the simple fact that whether listed or unlisted, we are looking at smaller companies, which is focused on high growth businesses, which got a quality management, better governance structure, and offer scale with technology backing. Now, both all these things are available to you even in the listed equity markets, also into the startup ecosystem. The point is that when you go into a little early into your investment cycle, where you invest right at the time where you've used your experience of this knowledge of investing, knowing that how company scales, that's the piece I wanted to use in startups, because there we are investing in companies which are less than 100 crore valuation, right? So idea was to use that last 12, 13 years of equity experience into startup ecosystem. And if we can hold on this story for next 5 to 10 years, we make money for the investors. So this is the only simple logic of how it can be done. And of course, we are going to see failures. Of course, there are going to be bets which will go wrong. Of course, it is going to happen from both the sides. But I reiterate, when you have a portfolio approach, you would never know that which company would do well. I mean, I'm sure audience would be asking, you have shared your good stories. Where are the bad stories? The point is, you are not supposed to focus on bad or good. You're supposed to see the overall results. When I showed one slide out of my own presentation about my own portfolio, I showed that 50% of the company actually lost money with me. But only 3 companies actually covered my 24 investments overall. So that's the same story goes when I have highlighted a listed equity, where 2 stocks actually made 4x return in 1.5 years. I mean, even if you lose 3 companies 50% less, still you're going to make a 20% return, right? So that's where the philosophy is, that right allocation and proper allocation across both categories. So this is where, my answer would lie. I won't be able to predict which company is going to do well tomorrow. Certainly when I invest, I want them to perform. But when you are having a portfolio approach, certainly by the law of, rule of law, and you go back to the history, it really works on your favor. So yeah, I mean, I would go with that.
Sure. So I would just try to give a disclaimer here that we have discussed some of the companies, but this is just for an education purpose. No one should start thinking that Tata Elxsi as, for example, a company that we are advising here. Not at all. It's just for an education purpose. Please do your own due diligence and on your own risk, and maybe somebody's advice whom you trust. Try and take your own financial decision. Second question that I would like to ask you is regarding the time horizon of your fund, because talking in here that you will build your you will make 2x return or 3x return or 5x return has no meaning. But if we make it more objective in terms of time horizon, that actually makes it interesting. So what is the indicative return that you think that your fund has a potential to generate, and what is the kind of time horizon that you are quoting onto your fund? And within that time horizon, is there any liquidity possibility for an investor? So from practical perspective, right? So please, over to you.
Yeah, sure, Kamal. So from a fund point of view, we have a 5-year tenure, which further can be extended by another 2 years. So overall, total 7 years. But 5 years is where we are committed to, liquidate our portfolio into the startups. Typically, my understanding has been that in this journey, it is the time which you require, and it is not a bullet train which will just put you in one place and will put you to the next place and create wealth. To create wealth, it's the most boring thing. You need to have patience. Indeed, for us, this tenure is also very short. If you look at from the market point of view, the funds are typically there for 7 to 10 years. We have, given a short tenure because we focus on pre-A and exit at a Series B onwards. And we are targeting to such investors who might not like to wait for 10 years kind of time frame. So this is where we come from. As far as the liquidity concern is there, of course, I come from a business family, and I have seen that things can never be certain. So you always like to have liquidity with you, and therefore our fund again stands very unique, where we say that we actually return back the entire listed equity capital, the 2 year from here 2 year onwards, to the investor. So therefore the liquidity is taken care of by the investments, and eventually the listed equity is given back to the clients. So therefore, in an overall 5 year period, you are actually able to get back a 50% capital within 2 years from today, and the remaining money is diversified between 10 to 15 startups, which effectively reduces the risk. So mathematically, a 1 CR, which is the minimum ticket size as per SEBI guidelines for an AIF Cat 2 fund, a 51 lakhs would go into a startup. And if you take a 10 company portfolio, your allocation per company, Kamal, is 5 lakh rupees, right? Which is at par with if you have been an angel investor yourself. So we are not doing anything different for you in terms of your risk profile is concerned. But the best part is that if a company really goes to a Series B and able to deliver a return, which I have typically seen in my personal portfolio, between 16 times to 20 times, hypothetically, again, then 5 lakh actually has a potential to actually become 1 CR, which is the total sum you have given as a fund, which has a listed equity piece. So therefore, we are very confident that this product really minimizes your risk in various ways. If you don't want to go to that extreme and you take a low multiple, then you must take a better success rate, because we are looking at a portfolio between 10 to 15 companies, and here I have just given you example of one. So again, in all parlance, we believe that we have come out with something which really helps the investor to reduce the risk for such asset class, which is really highly risky.
Right. How does taxation work, in your fund?
So, as per again income tax guidelines for AIF category 1 and category 2, we enjoy a pass-through status. So therefore, the taxation happens at the hands of the clients. From a fund point of view, we simply follow the guidelines as deducting the TDS on the profits made, and the balance money is returned back to the investors, and they do the filing in their books. And just to again reiterate that typically listed equity would attract a long-term capital gain tax of 10% if held more than 1 year, and 15% if it is held less than 1 year as short-term capital gain tax. And for startups, it is 20% if held more than 2 years. So this is a taxation law which is applicable to everybody in the country who is investing from India and in this Indian ecosystem.
Right. So anything else that you would like to cover with regards to who is the target profile of investor, and what is the kind of current investors that you have got in your fund, or any larger companies or any institution which is kind of partnering with you, or is coming up as an investor, as a co-investor, because that will give information.
Yeah. So Kamal, like your journey, even we have started our journey just 2 years ago. I come from a background where I have learned hard way through investing my own money and then actually getting into public money management. This transition has been really hard, and quite I would say the knowledge gain was immense, because what kind of pressure one has to go through and really be responsible for HNI community is very, very important for your investors. So we focus on HNIs, NRIs, family offices. Somebody who can write a 1 CR check is a client base we'll typically look at it. At this point of time, I'm proud to say that 25 investors have backed us, and our AUM is around 40 crore rupees. And of course, it's still growing. We are open for investments. As being a first fund, of course, we started small. Since we are gaining confidence and we are putting our brand now in the public market, just to tell them that this is something we brought in the market. And of course, we would be building our product range going forward in future. So this is where we stand as Rockstar Capital.
I think it has been pleasure talking to you, Abhishek. You have been so ethical and so confident and so factual in your discussion. And given that you are being backed by a fund which is going to invest into very high risk companies, your own confidence and your own personality would make a lot of difference. And that is what I see kind of differentiates you from many other fund managers in this category, because many other fund managers come out as very flamboyant, and maybe they would throw a very large number of investors backing them, but I know what is truth with what fund manager, because I keep interviewing most of them, and I see that truth and that fire in your eyes. And all the very best to you. And thank you everyone for watching us. We'll be back soon with more such educative and interesting seminars. Thank you everyone.
Thank you, Kamal.